Traders, welcome back to the channel. We're going over the SP500, the Nasdaq 100, exactly how we see this moving, what I was trading today, and how you should be looking at the market going into tomorrow. Now, before we get into this charts, I want to cover the news and what was moving the market today. Today, you did have Biden meeting with Powell to discuss inflation and the fight into inflation. Biden came out and talked to the United States of America for roughly 2 minutes after this. Yes, 2 minutes is how long he addressed the nation. Absolutely worthless when it comes to a meeting explaining what was happening. And what did he say? My plan to address inflation starts with the simple proposition: respect the Fed and respect the Fed's independence. That is literally all he said. That's basically a synopsis of how Powell was described from Biden and what their plan was. That's it. That's all Biden said. That's our leader. This is the picture of the meeting, and it kind of sums it up in a great image right there. Now, on the other news, there was a few things we saw today. We saw the SPY going back to the upside. We saw a lot of chop. So looking at this chart right here, you're going to notice it was chop. Some down movement, back to the upside, back to the down, continuous back and forth movement. I want to highlight tomorrow you got some good data coming out. You have PMI that's going to affect the supply chain, what's going on there, a better look of inflation. Then you have job openings. Both of these are 3-star events, high-star events coming out, and you can see those happening on investing.com, absolutely free as well there, so you can follow along there. That's going to be happening at 10 a.m. Eastern, so this will actually come out 30 minutes after the market's open. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see, because typically you're getting this data and you kind of get a feel of how the market's going to move going into the overall day. For instance, if we go back to the Nasdaq into Friday, you saw a lot of that movement occurring before 8:30 when the market opened. You saw all that movement happening right there, and then they continued going up. Tomorrow, you're probably not going to see it. You're probably going to see a flatter open. It's a little bit more, you're not to actually play it by ear, but this can give you a better opportunity to actually find some winning plays. So what am I looking on the market? The big one, in my opinion, is going to be PMI. Jobs are going to be big as well. PMI has missed 2 consecutive times so far, and you're coming out for a 3rd consecutive miss. We'll see how that plays out. So I'm looking at this. I'm anticipating a miss, but I'm going to play it by ear. If it comes out as a beat or even at the forecast, that's positive overall news, and I'll be looking for upside pressure. Now, I think it's very important to note from this area, I'm looking for, and have been stating, what I'm looking for on upside pressure and continuous upside movement is your goal here is going to be a 430 test. That's where we think the ceiling is right now. So on this upside move, and we've already addressed that this move looks shockingly similar to the one we saw back in mid-March right here that pushed us to that local high at 460, then inevitably pushing down to 380. This looks very similar to the type of movement you're getting right now, and you have to anticipate you move to 429, 430. That's going to be your upside pressure if data comes out good. Now, what I'm going to do is go to the 5-minute chart and show you how this is playing out right now. As we look at the S&P, you can see you're getting a lot of topping in this overall range, around 416, roughly to the high 415, 415.5 range. A lot of topping out coming there. Saw a little bit of a breakout, but you couldn't hold there and you continue to push back. Now, when I say chop, I want to highlight how many times you tested the daily open on the SPY. 1, 2, 3. You broke through 4 and then come through again 5. So you tested this range a lot. So you basically traded between 16 and 12 all day long. You continuously came back and forth. In Discord, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Today was a down day for me, about $400 or $500 on the loss side. A lot of trades were green in the beginning, but this chop right here just overall killed them. The biggest miss of the day, which I mentioned in yesterday's video, was what? It was Amazon. I told everyone about this one yesterday, but even I played this one wrong going into today. You had a little bit of chop in the morning, and the chop is really what got me out of this trade, but it turned and never looked back. The strength on this going into the split is extremely strong. Google as well went crazy all the way up to 23.10. Those are your best plays in the market. Stuff like Tesla, Apple, those looked strong, but they ended the day kind of weak. Apple, Microsoft, they pushed back to those local highs and got rejected. And that's what's kind of concerning me here, is looking at some of these big names get rejected while the only ones that are holding up very well are your stock split type companies. And that's a little bit of a worrisome factor here. So I don't think you're out of the woodworks yet, but you come into tomorrow, you get some good data. This can easily have you pushing above 416. Now, the big thing here is going to be looking at the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq's going to really answer all your questions, because here you didn't get any fake breaks or anything like that. You got continuous testing of about 1275. Continuous testing, rejected, and you made a lower high right here and then shot back down. So if you can get above 1275 and hold above this region, we are targeting very quickly the 13,000 range, 12.9 roughly, since it is that monthly level. You can see SPY as well ending the day very close to its previous monthly close. We're gonna have another monthly open coming out roughly right here in this area as well, which isn't a surprise either. These are very interesting things to be looking at and how the market's playing out. So what am I looking for here? I'm going to be trading upside on the market if you break above this range here, roughly 416, 417 roughly. If you break below this range right here, 412, and hold below it, I'm expecting downtrending and breaking back down towards 407, 408. That's what I'm looking at. In this range right here, it's a no trade zone. This right here, you're sitting in this block, it's a chop zone. You're trading quick scalps to the upside, quick scalps back to the downside. That's all you're looking for. There's no reason to trade and look for this in this range, because look, up, down, up, down. That's what's going to continue to happen until you hold below one or above one of these ranges. Now, going into what I want to look at right now as well, oil. Oil was very interesting. So you got some interesting news on the days. Oil was moving very good to come out with the news regarding Russia and the EU doing more bans on Russian oil. And then you have this news come out. This is from Zero Hedge. He is on Twitter as well, and he basically just has a blog that shares his thoughts on the market, things like that. I love the guy, really good content. Some people don't like him, but he did a good job going over this information here. Looking on what's happening, you had this thing about Russia being exempted from the oil production targets, and this could potentially pave the way for Saudi Arabia and the UAE and other producers in OPEC to pump significantly more crude. I want to address this first off the gates before I even talk about Biden. This is very unlikely. This is very, very unlikely, but this is what moved the market. It's important to know. This did move the market. He is stating this is why this was moving the market. And he said the algo sold first without thinking, smacking WTI down from 120 all the way to 115. You can see that happening right here. After this news was announced, and it happened in a hurry at roughly 8 a.m. You saw that happen right here. And then boom, you just tanked. And it was really bad. Instant drop happening right there. That was actually noon, not 8 a.m. My apologies. And then you had your other drop back here around 8 a.m. when you first started topping out at around 120. And then it happened back and forth, back and forth. So that's where you started to see those happening there. Now, this is all on the anticipation of OPEC increasing. Everyone knows OPEC has already stood by the stance that we've already done all we can. And they're saying that they're not going to raise the output. So that's very important to know. So I do see oil probably getting a bounce back, although I'm not going to lie, looking at this, I could see more downside coming from oil down to 110, 111. And at that point, you have to look at it probably to get that bounce from that range. Looking at those companies like CVX, Exxon, they had a huge downturn to start the week. And you can continue looking at these companies, again, seeing that downturn coming in the market. So looking here, what am I looking at? Although you were getting pressure on Nasdaq and these pushing up, which shows a risk on type of level, and then you also saw oil coming down, this is something that you would have liked to see, a disconnect from oil rising while stocks are rising, which can show sometimes that maybe you're getting a true rally on those stocks. I do believe this was dropping due to some hopes of fake news of OPEC producing more oil, which they're not going to do. They are just not going to do it. I'd be shocked if it did happen. So looking at this, I'm still looking to see where exactly we're going to open and close on the Nasdaq and SPY tomorrow. On the Nasdaq, you're going to be able to watch this in the after hours. 12.6 is major. If you hold above 12.6, you're looking prime, you're looking primo, you're looking for more upside. You want to see a break above that 12.75 region right here. If you hold above this, from there, I think the sky's the limit, and it'll easily push back to 12.9. And 13, it will be a magnet on the Nasdaq as well. Go back to the 1 hour chart. You can see this range all right here. You can see all of this support acting in this range, in this overall level, which has not been retested in a while, basically going back to the beginning of May. So that's where you're looking at this range as well, since you had that huge fall through. Getting above 12.9 will be a really big level as well, looking at how you held there previously. It's also very important to know this is what Biden and the White House are pushing on everyone. The White House, along with the Fed, initially portrayed the inflation surge as a temporary side effect caused by supply chain issues as the U.S. emerged from the pandemic. But now they're blaming it on Putin, and you're seeing them shift the blame back and forth, back and forth. The thing is, it just wasn't all handled well when you look at what happened with the crisis of COVID. Republican lawmakers were fast to criticize Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package from last year as pumping too much money into the economy, causing more inflation. The narrative also has held some sway with the leading economists who say the financial support was excessive, even though it helped the job market roll back. It's also important to know the job market they're talking about is not affecting positively, as they want to say, to the minorities and the low income housing. If you look at where this is affecting, one, if you're looking at overall African American and Latin and Latino overall individuals and homes, their job rates are actually down nationwide. This is just factual and looking at what's happening. If you're looking at middle, lower class job numbers are down as well. They're boosting in jobs that were previously not in these reports if you look back at 3 years ago. So they're adding new jobs and new criteria. So of course these numbers are higher. So that's one thing to look at. And that's why you're seeing some of these job numbers start to miss, because you're at such a high level already. Now, Powell's saying that they're going to be distant and let the Fed do their job. I mean, what other calls do they have to do? The White House has no control over the Fed. So that's very important to know. And then you also see a lot of this piece of Biden maybe pressuring, like Nixon pressured back in 72. Powell just got reelected. He has free reign. He can do whatever he wants. He is under the bar of no other person. That's very, very important. So I want people to keep an eye on the overall price of oil. That's going to be very big over the next few weeks as well. And I see oil going back up even with this dip happening. It's probably going to go back up through the time of summer. I think you're foolish to think we'll dip during summer. That's just never a good time to price in a dump on oil. Looking at the market in general, I do see these numbers and more data coming out to a negative sense. Maybe it doesn't happen now, but I don't think inflation is just because of what happened with COVID with the supply chain issues. I think this is a broad issue as far as how we've been borrowing, how we've been spending, and how consumers are spending nationwide. That's why consumer spending is going up and the overall income level of households is going down. We watched it in the previous video. But what I will say is that everyone in the market took this news overall well with what Biden was saying after the meeting with Powell. Even though it was nothing, they took it very good because the market ended up running a little bit after that as well. So these are all things to be looking at when it comes to SPY and when it comes to the Nasdaq. So in my opinion, again, it's going to come down to these two zones when it comes to trading tomorrow. If you hold below 412, you're bearish. If you hold above 416, you're bullish. In this range, it's extreme chop, and you're going to pinball back and forth. So if you go up, you're going to come down. If you go down, you're going to go up. As long as you're sitting in this range, you are going to go back and forth. It's as simple as that. But I expect a little bit more volume since it is the beginning of the month, and you're going to see more money flowing back into some of these options, and they're going to be resizing their positions overall. And overall, the market right now, I'm not going to lie to you, it does look good. It looks like you're getting a little bit of a bounce. Now, I'm not going to say, and I'm going to continue to say, I want to reiterate to people, the fundamentals, in my opinion, are still very, very bearish.